Hello, my wonderful third graders. I hope you are having a fantastic day. This is our last read aloud ed puzzle for our astronomy unit, our solar system and beyond. I have really enjoyed this unit and I've learned a lot, and I think you all have learned a lot. So I'm kind of sad for it to be over, but I am excited for our next unit, Unit 8. But for today, lesson 10 is called Mae Jemison, and we are going to hear about who Mae Jemison is and why is she important. Why are we having a whole lesson about her? You are about to find out. Some vocabulary words you'll hear throughout the read aloud. Astronautics is the study or practice of flight in aircraft. Applications are written requests to be considered for a program or job. Conducted is a verb. It means carried out or made something happen. Engineering is the study and work of using science, knowledge, and methods to solve problems in the world. International means among or between two or more nations or countries. Mission is a noun. It's a specific task or job that a person or team is sent to perform. Pursue is a verb. It means to do what it takes to accomplish something. Refugees are people who flee to another country for protection or safety. Tragedy is a very sad event or a disaster. So what have we learned so far? In the last lesson, you heard about the first astronauts to walk on the moon. Describe what this experience was like for the astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. What was it like for them to walk on the moon? What was the experience like for the people listening to the steps of their journey on Earth? How do you think they were all feeling? Were they excited? Was it an adventure? It was something new. Everyone was excited and waiting to see what happened, expectant, happy, right? When Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin stepped onto the moon. If you remember, Neil Armstrong said these very famous words after he stepped onto the moon. He said, "That's one step for man, one giant leap for mankind." What do you think he meant by those words? Why was it one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind? What does that mean? Well, he just took one step, right? He was one man who took a small step. But all of the people on Earth, it was a big step for them, a giant leap. It was something new and big that a man had gone and walked on the moon. So the word astronaut, we're going to talk about that. Think about astronauts. All astronauts in the United States train with NASA, NASA. Do you remember what the letters in the acronym NASA stand for? They stand for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. NASA is an organization that was started to lead the scientific research and exploration of outer space. It was NASA that coordinated the Apollo 11 trip to the moon, other manned flights into space, and many voyages of the spacecraft that have taken pictures of the distant planets in our solar system. NASA was formed in 1958 and since then continues to change the way we think about the universe. When we saw the Mars rover landing, the videos about the Mars rover landing, that was people who worked for NASA who were talking about it. A lot of people work for NASA to support its many missions. A mission is a specific task or job that a person, team, or piece of equipment is sent to perform. So the Mars rover had a mission, right? It was going to get samples to see if there used to be life on Mars. What kinds of things do you think scientists and other workers at NASA might do to help astronauts and spacecraft triumph in their missions? Right? It's a big job for many people. Lots of work goes into it. Remember when they talked about the Mars rover landing? and how people had worked for it for 8 years. It's a long time. Some of you, that's how old you are. So they worked on it for a really long time. So can you imagine their excitement last week when the Mars rover finally made it to Mars? It takes many kinds of workers to help astronauts and spacecraft to be successful in their missions to learn more about space. And we're going to learn specifically about one worker for NASA who's very famous. So your purpose for listening today is to learn about Mae Jemison. Jemison is a famous astronaut who worked for NASA. Today we will learn why Jemison is famous and in what year she traveled into space. Listen for the many contributions Jemison has made during her life. We've taken an imaginary adventure into space in our special classroom spaceship, but how would you like to really travel into space? When Copernicus was born in the 1400s, space travel was an impossible dream. Copernicus didn't even have a telescope, let alone a spacecraft. But thanks to the careful observations, logical thinking, and bold ideas of Copernicus and many other scientists before and after him, today we live in an amazing time when dreams of space travel really can come true. Advancements or improvements in technology have made it possible for human beings to travel into space. Ever since Apollo 11 first landed on the moon in 1969, more and more astronauts have flown into space. Would you like to be one of them? Mae Jemison's answer to that question was definitely yes. She dreamed about going into space from the time she was a little girl, and when she grew up, that's exactly what she did. In 1992, Mae Jemison blasted into space aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. She lived on the Endeavour for 8 days and conducted or carried out many experiments while she was there. In these experiments, she carefully collected information about how weightlessness in space affects animals and humans. One of the experiments involved frog eggs. Jemison wanted to see if they would develop into tadpoles normally while in orbit. Mae Jemison was the first African American woman ever to go into space. In fact, she was the first African American female astronaut in the history of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, in the history of NASA. Mae Jemison answered. There we go. This space shuttle is similar to the Endeavour on which Jemison traveled. What's special about space shuttles? They go into space, right? The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, remember NASA? It's a word part aero means having to do with air, and the word part nautics is related to navigation. What do you think aeronautics means? Aeronautics means the science of flight or navigating through the air. How did Mae Jemison make her childhood dreams of space travel come true? Part of the answer is that when she was young, she read a lot about the things she was interested in. Jemison was born in 1956 in Decatur, Alabama, but grew up in Chicago, Illinois. As a child, Jemison was very interested in space. She was 12 years old when astronaut Neil Armstrong and his Apollo 11 mission landed on the moon. At age 14, Jemison was still interested in space, so she read many adult books about astronomy. At the age of only 16, she graduated from high school and went to college at Stanford University in Stanford, California. It's a really good school. Education was very important to Mae Jemison. Education is also very important to NASA in choosing who will become an astronaut. While Jemison was at Stanford University, she studied chemical engineering, which is the study of chemicals or substances and how they can be used to solve problems or make products. While she was at college, Jemison also enjoyed theater, dancing, and playing football with her friends. She believed it was important to be a well-rounded person, which means to study and enjoy many different things. Jemison graduated from college with a degree in chemical engineering and Afro-American studies. Plastic is just one of the many materials that we use every day developed through chemical engineering. Fun fact. Besides wanting to be an astronaut, Mae Jemison also wanted to be a biomedical engineer. Biomedical engineers seek new ways to use technology to improve healthcare for people. When Jemison graduated from college, she thought about applying right away to NASA to become an astronaut, but decided to go to medical school first. In medical school, she traveled around the world providing medical care to people living in developing countries. As a medical school student, Jemison traveled to Kenya in Africa, where she helped with community medicine projects in very difficult areas. So, an engineer is a person who uses the knowledge and tools of engineering to solve problems. So, Mae Jemison was doing that by giving health care to children and people in Africa. A developing country is a country where most people do not have a lot of money or resources, and many do not have all the basic things they need to live a healthy life, such as adequate food, health care, clean water, and education. Jemison also traveled to Thailand in Asia to care for refugees from Cambodia. After Jemison graduated from medical school, she worked for the Peace Corps for more than 2 years. The Peace Corps is a U.S. governmental organization that sends volunteers to assist people in developing countries. In the Peace Corps, Jemison was responsible for the health of Peace Corps volunteers working in West Africa. And that's really neat. In 1985, Mae Jemison decided the time was right to pursue her dream of space travel. She applied to NASA to become an astronaut, but soon afterward, in January 1986, NASA suffered a terrible tragedy in its space shuttle program. The Space Shuttle Challenger burst into flames a little over a minute after it was launched. After this tragedy, all astronaut applications, including Jemison's, were postponed, meaning that NASA was not accepting any applications for new astronauts for a time. After NASA reopened the astronaut application program, Jemison found out she was chosen to be an astronaut in 1987. So the Challenger was a big deal. Like, people watched it on TV, they were excited, and it exploded after it took off, and all the people on board died, which was really sad. In fact, there was a teacher that won a contest and got to go to outer space on the ship, and she ended up dying. It's really, really sad. In 1992, after completing her space shuttle mission aboard the Endeavour, Jemison was famous. She was the first African American woman to go into space. Jemison retired from NASA in 1993 to pursue some of her other dreams. Jemison had used her fame as a launch pad to bring important issues into the public spotlight. She founded an international science camp called Earth We Share. Students at the international camp work to help solve current global problems by using science and technology. She also started her own company, which seeks to develop technologies that benefit planet Earth and the people who live on it. But most of all, Jemison is a great example of how important it is to follow your many dreams. Mae Jemison is living proof that your dreams can literally take you out of this world. So the word international, what parts do you see in this word? You see the prefix inter, which means among or between, and the word part national means nations or countries. So what do you think the word international means? It means among or between two or more nations. So it means Mae Jemison's camp she started was for people from more than just one country. It's pretty cool. Mae Jemison is just one of many astronomers who have added to our knowledge and understanding of space and the universe. For thousands of years, humans have been curious about the celestial bodies and what lies beyond the Earth. Even now, there are man-made satellites, spacecraft, and even scientists in space performing experiments, gathering information and taking pictures. As we come to the end of our space journey together, there is still one question: what's next? As we learn more and more about our world, there could be a thrilling discovery waiting right around the corner. Will you be the next great scientist to contribute to the work of other scientists who have come before you? Will you become an astronaut and set foot on another planet or moon? Will you discover a new celestial body, a new galaxy, or a new way of thinking about our world? What's next? So why is Mae Jemison famous? In 1992, she was the first African American woman to become an astronaut and travel into space. Describe Jemison's mission as an astronaut. What did she do? She went to space for 8 days, right? And she did experiments while they were there, including experiments with frog eggs to see if they would hatch while in orbit. NASA considers many applications for the astronaut program. What kinds of characteristics or skills do you think made Jemison a good candidate for NASA? Why did they accept her application to be an astronaut? She had determination, strong academics, a love of reading and science, was a doctor and an engineer, and had many degrees. Compare and contrast the lives of Nicholas Copernicus and Mae Jemison. How are they different? How are they similar? Well, similarities, they both were interested in space and making hypotheses and experiments and learning new things. They were both the first to do something. Mae Jemison was the first African American woman to go to space. Nicholas Copernicus was the first astronomer to create the heliocentric theory that the solar system revolved around the sun. They're a little different in that Nicholas Copernicus lived in the 1400s and Mae Jemison lived in the 1900s, right? Mae Jemison went to outer space. Nicholas Copernicus never did. And Mae Jemison was famous while she was alive and well respected while she was alive or is alive. But Nicholas Copernicus, right, he didn't publish his theory until he died, right, and wasn't famous and respected until after his death. Mae Jemison had many dreams she wanted to pursue. Think about your interests and passions. What do you want to pursue now or as you get older? I'm excited to read about what you want to do. Our word for today is mission. In the read aloud you heard, Jemison was 12 years old when astronaut Neil Armstrong and his Apollo 11 mission landed on the moon. Say the word mission. A mission is a special task or job that a person or a team is sent to do. People on Earth watched with excitement as astronaut Aldrin, Armstrong, and Collins carried out their mission to the moon on Apollo 11. Maybe you've heard about like spies going on a mission. So a mission is just something, a job, important job that people have to do. Okay, so sayings and phrases. A feather in your cap. An idiom is an expression whose meaning goes beyond the literal meaning of its individual words. They've been passed down orally or quoted in literature, so people have said them for a long time. It's figurative language, which means that it doesn't mean exactly what it says. If you heard someone say a feather in your cap, do you know what a cap is? It's another word for hat. So this idiom refers to an accomplishment that is worthy of praise. It doesn't mean an actual, literal you can see a feather in someone's hat. It's talking about something good that someone did. So memorizing all of your multiplication tables, for example, all your multiplication problems, some of you have already done that, can be a feather in your cap, right? It's one more accomplishment. It's like a good job, you did it. You have another feather in your cap. In this 17th century idiom comes from an ancient Native American and Asian custom. Warriors placed a feather in their headgear for every enemy they defeated in battle. In today's read aloud, which of Jemison's accomplishments could be seen as a feather in her cap? She became a doctor, an engineer, joined the Peace Corps. She was the first African American female astronaut. Man, she had a lot of feathers in her cap. When Mae Jemison became the first African American female in space, someone could have told her the accomplishment is a feather in your cap. It used to be that only men with backgrounds as jet pilots were considered for becoming astronauts with NASA. So Jemison broke many boundaries as an African American woman who worked hard to develop herself as a scientist. Can you think of a situation where you or someone else you know has achieved an accomplishment that is a feather in your cap? All right, good job, third graders. I hope you enjoyed this last read aloud of our science or our space unit. Get excited for the next one. It's going to be fun.